Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. How are you? Hope you are all fine. I am here to teach you about the present perfect tense. As we discussed earlier in the previous classes, present indefinite and the present continuous tense. Now the third tense related to present is the present perfect tense. Yes, students, the present perfect tense is a rather important tense in the English, but it gives speakers of some languages a difficult time. That is because it uses the concepts and ideas that do not exist in those languages. In fact, the structure of present perfect tense is very simple. As you know, the problem comes with the use. That what is the use of the tense? In addition, there are some differences in usage between the British and American English. I'm here to teach you, and this lesson is about the present perfect tense, that how we make the present perfect tense and how we use this type of tense. So in this lesson, we'll look at the structure and the use of the present perfect. Students, I always discussed in the previous classes that there are only two main questions that arises in discussing the tenses. Before discussing those questions, first we have these definitions of present perfect tense. That what is present perfect tense? So present perfect tense is used to describe an action that begins in the past and continues in the present or has just been completed. You have noticed, students, that the present perfect tense is a link. It is a link between the past and the present. That there is some action you did in the past and it continues in the present. So present perfect tense is a link that describe an action which begins in the past. The key point is the link between the past and continues in the present, or that has been completed or just has been completed. For example, I have played. So I am playing, or I was playing in the past but continue in the present. So I have played. He, she has played. From these examples, we have noticed that the action begins in the past but it continues in the present. So present perfect tense is related to a time period, is related or create a links between the time of the past and the present. Now students, there are always two important questions in discussing the tenses. Number one is the how we make the present perfect tense, and then number two is the use, that how do we use the present perfect tense. These two questions are very important, not related only to the present perfect tense but related all the types of tenses. So the one is the use and other is to make, how we make this type of tenses and how we use this type of tenses. So let's get started. Yes, how we make the present perfect tense. Number one, the structure of the present perfect tense is the subject. Now, what is subject? Subject is the doer of the sentence. Doer of the sentence is known as the subject. And then auxiliary verbs. Auxiliary verbs, I have also told you about. The auxiliary verbs are the helping verbs that helps the main verb or the main action. So in the present perfect tense, we use the auxiliary verb have or has. Have and has. Two auxiliary verbs are used in the present perfect tense along with the main verb. What is the main verb? Main verb is an action of the sentence. Action of the sentence, and it is the past participle, or you can say in the simple language is the third form of the verb. So this is the rule that how we make the present perfect tense. Subject plus auxiliary verb, which is also known as the helping verb, and the number third is the main verb. Main verb is the main action, which is the past participle or the third form of the verb. Yes, there are some example of the past perfect tense. For example, if the subject is I, so we use the auxiliary verb have, and the main verb is seen. It is the third form of the word see. See, saw, seen. So we use the main verb as a seen, and etc., which is your object. So in the positive sentence, first there are three types of sentences we have formed. Number one is the positive sentence, number two is the negative sentence, and the number three is the interrogative sentence. So in the example of positive sentence, we only use the auxiliary verb with the main verb, which is the past participle. Okay, and the subject is the you along with the have eaten. Eaten is the past participle of eat, and then mine is your subject. So for following with the positive, there is a negative sentences. If there is a negative sentence, we use not along with an auxiliary verb. For example, she has not been to room. We have not played football. So has and have is an auxiliary verb, not is the negation for the negative sentences, and being and played is the third form or the past participle, and these are your objects. So student, you have noticed that has is used for the third person pronouns. He, she, it. Has is used for the third person singular, and have is used for the first and the second person. First person is I, second person is you, and we is also the first person plurals. So have is used for plurals and also for the first and the second person, and has is only used for the third person singular. Keep in mind, students. And our third category of the sentence is interrogative sentence. So number one is the positive sentences, number two is the negative sentences, and then number three is the interrogative or the question based sentences. So in the question based sentence, what you have to do, the auxiliary verbs come before your subject. So you is the subject of the sentence and have is an auxiliary verb. So auxiliary verbs come before the subjects, and finish with your past participle. So the sentence is something like that: have you finished? Keep in mind, in interrogative sentence you always use the question mark at the end of the sentences. So and let's another example: have they done it? So have is an auxiliary verb, they is your subject, and done is the past participle, and it is your object, and the question marks, remember. So there are three categories of sentences. Number one is the positive sentence, number two is the negative sentence, and then number three is the interrogative sentence. And the only rule of the present perfect tense is the subject, auxiliary verb, and the main verb. In positive sentence we use subject, auxiliary verbs, and the main verb. But in negative sentence we use not between the auxiliary verbs and the main verbs. And in interrogative sentences we use the auxiliary verb before the subject and then the main verb. These are the three categories, students, of the sentence. Yes, there are some contractions with the present perfect tense. What are these contractions? When we use the present perfect tense in speaking, we usually contract the subject and auxiliary verbs. We also something do is when we write I have. So contractions is also there. I have. You can also write it as I have. Then you have. So You have apostrophe with the VE. He has, he's, she's, it's, John's, the cars, we have, they have. So be careful that apostrophe s contradiction is used for the auxiliary verbs have and be. For example, it's eaten can mean it has eaten. Okay, present perfect tense active voice, and in passive voice it is eaten in the passive voice. Keep in mind this students, that apostrophe is only used for auxiliary verb have and be. For example, it's eaten in the passive active voice it means it has eaten, but in the passive voice it means it is eaten. It is really clear from the context. Okay, yes, there are some example here. I have finished my work. John seen. ET stands for what? And they have gone home. Okay student, now next the second question. The second question on how we use. Now first question we had discussed that how we make the present perfect. Now the second question is how we use the present perfect tense. So the tense is called the present perfect tense. There is always a connection with the past and with the present. As we already discussed, there are basically three uses of present perfect tense. So there are three uses. Number one is an experience. Number two is the change, and number three is the continuing situations. So we will explain later that present perfect tense for experience, how it is used as an experience. So for experience, we often use the present perfect tense to talk about the experience from the past. We are not interested in when you did something. We only want to know if you did it. It is only related to your experience, not interested with when you did or the time. I have seen it Elsa, or I have seen in something, whatever you have an experience. Another example is he has lived in Bangkok. Yes, that is experience. Have you been there? We have never eaten caviar. So these are related to the same actions that was in the past. That was in past, but it continues in the present. So the action of the state was in the past, and in my head I have a memory now. So in this example, there is a connection with the past and the connection with the present. In my head now is related to the present, and the event was in the past. Was is related to the past. So I have a memory of the event. I know something about this event. I have experienced of it. So present perfect tense is related to your experience. Number second is the present perfect tense is for the change. How it used as a change. So present perfect tense for change. We also use a present perfect tense to talk about the change or the new information. For example, I have bought a car. So this is a new information of the change that I have bought. Before that, I don't have any car. So I have bought a car. In the past, last week, I didn't have a car. Let's see, students. I didn't have a car. So now I have a car. So there is a change from past to the present. And the next example, John has broken his leg. Yesterday, John had a good leg, but now he has a bad leg. So it is a change in the new information for you. So present perfect tense is also used to connect the past and the present in this sense too. Yes, the third example is the police have arrested the killer. Yes, in the past, yesterday the killer was free, but now he is in prison. So it is a connection with the past and present. You will understand. Yes, note it down that Americans do not use the present perfect tense so much as the British speakers. So in the start of the lesson, I told you that there is a difficulties in speaking the accent between the American and British speakers. But in American, they do not use the present perfect tense as the British do. American often use the past tense. Instead, an American might say, did you have lunch? Where a British would say, have you had lunch? So there is a difference between these accents. So the speakers or the native speakers always felt difficulty in speaking those. So student, the third situation was the present perfect tense for continuing situation, that how it used in the continuing situations. Yes, we often use the present perfect tense to talk about the continuing situation. There is a state that started in the past and continues in the present, or will probably continue in the future too. This is a state, not an action. Keep in mind, this is a state, not an action. We usually use for and since. Yes, there is always difficulty in speaking that whenever we use the for and since with the structure, and seriously speaking, till I also have confusion between this. For is used for which sentences and since is used for which sentences, but make it clear. For example, I have worked here since June. So in this example, I have worked here since June. So I have started the work in the past, but it continues in the present since June. The time period of the started is June. The other example is he has been ill for 2 days. And the third is the how long have you known Tara. For example, you have noticed that in these examples there is always a time is mentioned, since June, for 2 days, how long. So the situation started in the past and it continues up to the now, and it will probably continue in the future. So for the continuing situation, so there is a connection with the past and the present. So for and since with the present perfect tense, that how we use these two, for and since, the time experiences in the past present perfect tense. We often use for and since with the present perfect tense. We used for to talk about the period of time. Whenever we talk about the period of time, for example, 5 minutes, 2 weeks, 6 years, and we use the since to talk about the point in the past, that when it started, what is the exact timing of the work. So in for, there is always a doubt in the time. 5 minutes, which 5 minutes? 2 weeks, which 2 weeks? And 6 years, which 6 years? So there is a doubt in the use of for, but in since it is an exact point in the past time. 9 o'clock, yes, 1st January, Monday. So it is the exact time. So whenever you use the for, you have an exact. So whenever you use for, it is an exact doubt in the period of time, and whenever you use the since, it is a point or the exact in the past. So here are some examples of for and since. A period of time, 20 minutes, 3 days, 6 months, 4 years, 2 centuries long. And these are some examples. A point in the past time period, Monday, January 1994, I left school, the beginning of time, etc. So here is the example for and since. For example, I have been here for 20 minutes. I have been there since 9 o'clock. John hasn't called for 6 months, and John hasn't called since February. And he has worked in New York for a long time, and he has worked in New York since he left school. So for can be used with all tenses, and since is only used with the perfect tense only. Keep in mind, students, for is used for all type of sentences, and since is only used with the perfect tense. So students, this is the main rule for the positive sentences: as plus has and have plus the past participles, and for the negative sentences, as or subject plus have not and has not with the past participle, and in interrogative, has, have plus subject and past participle. For example, I have tried sushi. I have not tried sushi. Have you tried sushi? So these are the 3 main types of sentences. They are formed in the present perfect tense. So student, this is all about the present perfect tense. And yes, the present perfect tense is really a very interesting tense and have a very useful one. Try not to translate the present perfect tense into your language. Just try to accept the concepts of this tense and have to think present perfect. You will soon learn to like the present perfect tense. Yes, hope you will understand all these points. And yes, students, after all, I have an assignment for you. If there, before this, if there is any ambiguity or any confusion, you will contact me in Edmodo, and I have an assignment for you that you have to write a creative story. Yes, creative story about whatever you have in your mind. So you have to create a story in which you use the present perfect tense. So it is an authentic and organized one story. It's not for fun, students. It really means to me. And your assignment should be in an organized form. The summations of assignment is next week, or you may be in the coming weekend. And I'll give you marks according to your creativity, and these marks of assignment in the quiz must means a lot in your final exams. Be clear, students. So after watching this video, or after accepting these all ideas, if there is any ambiguity and confusion, you have to solve it by yourself firstly. Then I'm always for you here. You have to contact with me, and this is all about the present perfect. In the next video, we will discuss about the present perfect continuous tense, inshallah. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.